Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Live with Sherry and Tech. I'm Juliet, and I'm super excited to have you here. And before we start, I would like to acknowledge the land of each of us is presently the Turtle Island, that we are guests here, and it's our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain this land. Acknowledging the territory that we are on is about so much more than the land, and at the same time, it's all about the land. The essence of a land acknowledgement is honoring the people, communities on the Turtle Island. They acknowledge wisdom, belief, teaching, languages, help support love, care, and tradition of many ancestors who have been on this land since time immemorial. In acknowledging the tradition territories of the many indigenous people of the Turtle Island, we are given the opportunity to welcome these traditions and ways of being into our own lives. So I hope that all of you, if you haven't know where are you situated, just to Google and just Google what is land acknowledgement, so you know where are you situated. I'm super excited for all the sessions that we're having in February. Is with Cherry and Tech, we are trying to bring as much information to all of you. Our new cohort is opening up in Saturday, so we are bringing today participants from our fall 2023 cohort. And the idea of this is that they tell us all the good and bad, what it happened and how it happened. So let's welcome all of them. Let's bring them in. Welcome everybody. How are you?
Hello.
Really good.
I feel like we didn't talk about how we're going to go into the questions. So let's say that you go and jump and answer, or you want me to call your name after a question?
Maybe call out.
Yes, okay, that's easier. If I forget your name, if I not forget that I haven't called you, let me know, because that happened to me before. Okay, so let's start telling people who are you. So Neha, why don't we start with you?
Sure. My name is Neha. I use they, them pronouns. I have been a product manager actually for a little bit of time now. So my experience coming into this cohort was a little bit different than some of the other people. But I've had a couple 4 years of experience as being a product manager. At my time with Cherry on Tech, I was the lead PM, and we worked on imposter syndrome, and it was great. And the other small little fact is I live in Philly, and I got 2 cats and a partner I live with. Yeah.
I love it. Did you share ever pictures of your cats? I don't think so. That's not fair.
I can definitely show off one tonight if you would
Yes.
like me to.
Yes, we can do that. We are bringing like life cats into this.
I just tapped this one.
If that isn't enough to join, I don't know what is.
Yes. Thank you so much. Okay, Melissa.
Yeah, my name is Melissa. My pronouns are she, her, and I have been an implementation manager in my work, but I joined Cherry on Tech as a product manager, which I'm actively looking to transition into. Absolutely love my time with Cherry on Tech. Very excited to talk about it. And my unique fact is that as of December, I have been to all 50 of the United States. Very proud of that.
Wow. Yes, I feel like last year when you were mentioning this, you didn't have them all in your list. So this is like a great accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yes.
Pennsylvania that was the 50th one. So I did go to Philadelphia.
Nice.
Okay, Archaa.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I had a little tech issue there. There is a machine shredding a tree that decided to park outside my window right now. So please bear with any noises. My name is Archaa. My pronouns are she, her. And an interesting fact about me is that I'm a published children's book author. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Thank you.
I love unique facts and fun facts about people because they always surprise me with something amazing. Okay, I know that some of you already share about what did you do before tech, but if you're transitioning to tech, what did you do before and what were your expertise, and why now into the roles that you chose? Neha again.
So like I said, so I have had I was already in tech, but what I thought was really cool about moving into product, I had been in more of a customer success role previously. And what I really like about going into product management is that it reminds me a little bit of organizing. And what I mean by that is that it requires you to coalesce around an idea, one single idea, and try to actually talk to all these different stakeholders and try to figure out what is the goal, what are we trying to do, how do we know that we're moving forward together and actually getting it done. So that's like a part of like why I really like product. It was a new field for me that I hadn't heard about, even being in customer success and being in the tech field before. So I was really happy to move into product and kind of start to flex a little bit of my organizing skills into my work life as well.
And this is a good one maybe to go with Melissa because you are a PM. So what about you?
Yeah, so the bulk of my career has been in implementation. I would consider myself tech adjacent because I worked for a restaurant point of sale company that was, of course, technology, but I was more on the customer side. And I recently got my degree in leading innovative organizations, and I feel that innovation is kind of what tech means to me. I think that innovation can mean a lot of things, but I just love the fact that you're never having the same day twice, and you're kind of always on your toes. I'm someone who gets bored a little easily, so I really love tech for that reason, and specifically product management for kind of that collaboration piece and that ability to, impact that tech and really have an impact on what you're doing for the company you work for the customer that you're working for as well.
Thank you. Archaa, what about you as a developer?
Awesome. Yeah. So I forgot to mention earlier that, I'm working I'm looking for a role as a software engineer currently. And I did a little bit more of that 180 transition into tech. So my previous life was working as an educator, first as a classroom teacher, then as a consultant in the education space. And I career pivoted initially looking for just more career stability. And then once I got into developing, coding, all of that, I found actually a lot of overlaps between what I did as an educator and the world of programming, especially that it's actually deeply collaborative, which Archaa Tech is the perfect example of that. You have to know how to work with people. You have to be able to work with a lot of different type of people to be successful at your role. And it's also pretty creative. I think that if you want to be good at coding, you have to be able to problem solve creatively. People think it's pretty cut and dry, black and white, just like typing some zeros and ones into a computer, but that is not what we do in the world of programming. So that creativity drew me in as well, and is something that I brought in from my previous career, creative problem solving. So yeah, it's a little bit.
Love it. And I feel like I'm a career changer and I changed careers back in 2020. And we all struggle. There is some struggles when changing careers. So what do you think are the major struggles and challenges that you are facing right now as you change into a new space, Archaa?
Yeah, I think that probably everyone is going to resonate with this, but just actually finding that job right now in this market, in whether it's, we're moving into something adjacent or completely 180, if we don't have that kind of experience written, on the resume that feels directly aligned, that feels like it's providing a challenge right now to break into tech. And I think that that's one of those things that right now just requires a lot of patience, and finding things and people, communities that keep you going, keep your spirits up, and can commiserate with you like through the struggle, and just really not internalizing it, because it's so helpful to hear everyone be like, this is happening to all of us, like not just you as an individual because you're not good enough. So yeah.
Love that.
Totally.
Is there anything different from that, Melissa?
I would say that exact thing. Yeah, it's that paradoxical. You need experience to get experience, but then you need experience to get experience, which is why I really appreciate Cherry on Tech specifically. But yeah, also I'll echo that uh, it's tough to maintain your confidence through all of that because I think that everyone has things they're really good at. Everyone has areas for growth. It's tough not to question, am I really good at the things I'm good at? And do I really have too much growth? But I think that's something that working with community really helps, and being able to really flex those muscles to say I'm learning at the things that I need for my gaps, but I'm also flexing the muscles that are the things I'm confident in.
Neha, anything to add there?
Not more than kind of what everyone has said so far. As a person that even has experience that's going through this process, it's difficult to relay it regardless, right? So it's difficult to relay within an interview the best answer that you can possibly give, right? So when you're talking to these more experienced people, they have a framework that's specific in their mind of who they exactly want. So I think it's difficult even then to do it. And I definitely know that Cherry on Tech has been a place where, as a person that has been looking for a little bit of time, I was able to sharpen my skills again. And I think having an opportunity to kind of teach people about what are like product practices and moving a team along and developing a little bit of a small culture, it really was very motivating to me to actually have that experience to continue to look for that role that's going to be a best fit for me. So I've definitely appreciated the opportunity to work on this. And also the other part that I really like about Cherry on Tech is that there's no initial tech ego that people are coming in with. People are very willing to learn. It's very collaborative, and they just want to do a good job. I think that's like the best part of it. Yeah.
Love it. And I think a lot of people is asking what is this Cherry on Tech and what are you talking about? So Cherry on Tech is a volunteer organization that we empower underrepresented genders, so women, non-binary, and trans people to get into tech by the power of Tech Squad. And last year, we started inviting more tech squads into Cherry on Tech by the cohort program. That is a 13-week program where we put tech squads together. So 2 PMs, 2 designers, and 3 developers. And they work in like an end-to-end project where they can develop their skills and most likely feel confident and have a space where they can learn and they can fail and they can learn back again and see how it works. I think for me, coming into tech and not having that experience or not having any space where I can be vulnerable and make mistakes, it was really hard. So the tech squad really helped me with that. So I know that all of you mentioned already, Neha, you said a lot of what you like about Cherry on Tech, but what inspired you to join the cohort last year? So let's get back to you, Neha.
What inspired me to join the cohort?
Yes.
I think for me, the other aspect of why I appreciated this space, especially even as a person that has a little bit of experience, was the way that the program is kind of paced, right? The program is like there's a lot of information. If you're a new person, there's so much documentation that the Cherry on Tech team has like developed for every single role. There are tasks, there are mentors, there are other people that are also helping you. You're not just thrown onto a tech squad. And I believe that the other thing that really I noticed for myself was the automatic inclusivity of the programs that you guys were having on the Saturdays. Like there's a lot of organizations that say that they're diverse and that say that they're inclusive, but it's not always just inherently throughout the program. And I would say that you guys have done a good job with doing it without like force feeding it to people as an option. So I think that was another thing that you can get out of this, is that at least for me, I was able to connect with mentors in a way that I hadn't before. I was able to connect with people that I would not have been able to before. And because of that, I've gained people that I can do mock interviews with. I can batter around ideas with. Like, just kind of building that connection is something that I found has been very helpful.
Love it. And I will say that for us to be keep pushing what it is to be diverse and inclusive, and I don't like to say the other word because it's so hard, equitable. It's always so hard that I avoid it. We're bringing consultants that are going to help us, this cohort, to be really digging into this. So we're trying to bring as many people that they are down for our mission that want to help. So I'm super excited for what is coming for the next cohort. But let's get it back to Archaa.
Yeah.
Sorry, I caught
think
you on the sneeze.
That's okay. I jumped back in right after, no worries. For me, the number one motivation to join Cherry on Tech was its design as a program for people underrepresented gender-wise in tech. So for women, for non-binary folks, for trans folks. And that to me was honestly the biggest draw. There are several other programs out there that do offer the opportunity to work on projects to build up your skills, but this is the only one I've seen so far that focuses on the somewhat working to, address that intense inequity in tech around gender. And while it was, I'm sure whatever job I get won't be as awesome in terms of its diverse representation as my tech squad. Was so amazing to be in that space, especially after having gone through a tech boot camp personally. That was the opposite of that. There were 4 women in my cohort, and like everybody else were cisgender men, and they were like, wow, this cohort has a lot of women in it. And I was like, what? I come from a field that has like the opposite gender inequity. Like I worked in education, which is like disproportionately cis women. So just like coming into tech, that was one of my biggest kind of hesitations that, wow, is this just going to be me constantly being like mansplained to by a lot of dudes or something like that. So yeah, just really awesome to, again, I know that statistically speaking won't be as diverse probably in whatever job I end up in, but at least just being able to build the skills and the communication ability to be confident in what I know and understand in an environment that feels much more safe, much more inclusive, much more representational of me. I also was so happy to find that my squad had a lot of racial diversity as well. That was really great to see. And I know that's not like necessarily a selecting factor in applying to Cherry on Tech, but I really appreciated just that seems like there is this intersectional lens that you all are applying to how you create squads and things like that. So yeah, that was my biggest selling point. And then just wrap it up really quickly with one other thing that I really appreciated is that I, before Cherry on Tech, hadn't worked with designers and product managers. I'd only ever worked with other developers. So that was my first time experiencing that. And that was a game changer for me because that's what the real world is for developers. So, yeah.
Love it. And I will say that Melissa comes from like a little bit different from the two of you, as Melissa was here before the cohort started. So why did you join Cherry on Tech initially? And what it drives you to be part of the cohort with your tech squad?
Yeah, so I could probably echo a lot of the same sentiments as you two. My main motivation was getting experience, both in the actual like skills that I wanted to gain, but then also just like looking for something to put on my resume, right? And I think that Cherry on Tech absolutely did that in ways that I wasn't expecting. And I think someone mentioned this, but I really wanted to make sure that I said that I love that Cherry on Tech, in addition to the inclusivity, also the problem spaces that we actually work on are problem spaces that are really impactful. Like my group also worked on imposter syndrome, and I loved that we were able to think about ways to impact this, and that was kind of baked into the experience of doing something in tech and something that I wanted to work on. And I started a little earlier. I was part of the last cohort, but I also was part of a tech squad during the summer. And again, I'll echo the same thing. It's an incredible place to learn. I don't have a background necessarily. I haven't been a developer. I haven't been a designer. I don't sometimes know a lot of what people are talking about, but there's literally no better space to learn than when you're doing, and especially in a group that's so open and welcoming and open to helping learn and being the person on the other side of that as well. So yeah.
I love that. And I'm glad that you mentioned the problem spaces. The problem spaces ideas came out from our research, talking with people about what do they need in life and what they're struggling. And that's where we grab the ideas from. And the main idea of having like an end-to-end project, usually when you go to work, the project is there already and you just jump in halfway to trying to fix it or make it better or enhancements or whatever. But one of the coolest experiences that I have in my first job is to work in a beginning process, like in a beginning project from the discovery. And I thought, okay, everybody should have this experience of having like an end-to-end project in their resume or as a experience. So that's one of the other factors about this. Challenges. What challenges did you have during the 13 weeks? And I love this. Usually you see people like really struggling the first month. Like, I don't know where we're going. Is this going to be possible? And I cried. I not a lot, but I cried in the last presentation because it was so cool to see where everybody was at that point. Like that struggle that they have at the beginning and all the roadblocks were like, disappear, but it's like they learn so much from it. But Archaa, what were the struggles that you faced during the cohort?
Yeah, I think that my squad had a lot of bumps along the road. And, it's like one of the issues was we had just kind of for, whatever personal reasons, we just had people who weren't able to stick around. So we're losing members and then gaining new members, but then they also weren't able to stick around. And so that made the team dynamic, shifting constantly. And then we're all just such different people. We all have such different roles. And so trying to communicate in groups of people that are really different from you is always challenging. And I think that, there are points when we were trying to figure out our problem space, which is the process of figuring out what product your squad is going to build and going through an actual process to decide that was quite challenging for our group because we just were coming in with a lot of different ideas and opinions and having a hard time finding common ground. But it was honestly probably a really great real world experience, I think, because a lot of projects that are designed, in this kind of context, it's usually relatively smooth sailing in terms of like, okay, everyone feels it's pretty low stakes. So you're just kind of there to do, whatever your hour or two of work and then keep going to whatever else you have going on. But in an actual job, it's so much more realistic to be like, there is so many interpersonal, technical, logistical conflicts that are always coming up, and to be able to experience that, I think was just really helpful to be like, okay, yeah, this is actually the reality of working with these different roles, especially because as a programmer, my kind of approach to tech is very different than, let's say, a product manager. And so I had never worked with a product manager before. So I wasn't used to talking so much about what was being built and ideating so much around what was being built. I was much more used to just having something kind of told to me or just very quickly deciding, okay, these are the things, and then we're building it. Yeah, so I think that they were actually honestly great experiences. And at the end of the day, like, I want to add the caveat that while it was challenging, it wasn't like challenging in the sense of like, oh my gosh, like this is, more than I signed up for or bit off too much. It was more like, okay, it's challenging. And we have the context of we have the shared understanding as a community. So we don't have to like get so stressed out or lose sleep over this. It's more just like take it in stride and keep going sort of thing. So
I love that. I love struggles. I think with every person that I talk, I would say that struggles are one of the biggest opportunities for learning, and having a space where it's okay to struggle and it's okay to save out and change what you're doing and slow down is okay. And exactly that's what happened at work. And at work, you won't have maybe the space to slow down and change the course, but I think is so powerful to be able to do that. And we have different resources around this. So we will have mentors, and we have another mentor that we call Cherry and Tech. Cherry and Tech. Oh my goodness, Cherry Mentor. And the Cherry Mentor is a little more operational in the sense, and a little more like a cheerleader. So there is a lot of different things that are going to be provided for this. But honestly, learning in this way is such a powerful tool. Neha.
I would say that we were very lucky about not missing people didn't drop from our team, but one of the things that definitely did happen was life happened. And I think that is an extremely that happens all the time in a real work environment, is that life happens and your developer cannot be there for a week or two. The work that you thought was going to happen didn't happen. Um, you had designed something, and then this it changes in the middle, and the developer creates something. You're like, I didn't tell you.
Oh no, maybe the cat
Technology happens.
interfere into the discussions. Like, I'm done with this. It's like, let me be part of this,
Okay.
please.
What happened?
Like,
I'm so sorry. What happened?
I
Who
don't
did I
know. We were
It's just
talking
The
about
me.
the
cat.
cat.
We're blaming the cat.
Yes.
Okay, we can always blame the cat. Where was I? So I don't.
Life happens.
You were just saying that that life happens and that people had things come up.
Yeah, just like that is the most real life kind of example. It was funny. It was almost funny to me that like it was so relatable to work in that way, because I like when you're working on a project during work and you've given your stakeholders a deadline. You've kind of come up with this idea. You're like, I am expecting something to be done, but then life happens. Something the designer didn't do something. The So I think it was really interesting that within our team we were able to actually work on those real life example of how do we fix this? Like, how do we improve our communication so we can let each other know? How do we then adjust our schedules? How do we then adjust our expectations? And I think that was a really important thing to learn, was developing that understanding of each other. Because when you work on a squad, uh, you, I feel like what I've seen sometimes in the past is that the team does not get along. So actually having a team that gets along or understands each other or understands where the other person is coming from, especially when we had a couple of instances during our design efforts when we were ideating on the product, we were just like coming up ahead against each other. One person had one idea, another person had another idea, and we're like, well, we can't do both. Um, so being able to work through that problem, and it wasn't even me who kind of was like, maybe we should stop and chill, like it was someone else, and I was like, oh, this is so helpful, and this is something that I know I can use down the line when I come into a real life experience, is like sometimes pausing, taking a little break, coming back, and that really helped our team kind of grow together, and I really appreciated that. I think just the other constraints was just the fact that everyone was new. Everyone was very new, and just like you said, Juliet, like in the beginning I was like, I am a little confused about what we're trying to do here. But it's like a little bit of like trust the process, and that really helped out to make it come to fruition. um, I of course have other, I'm like, oh, we can do this and this, but I think it's good when if you're I always say that feedback is never good or bad, is at least engagement. So if you've at least engaged them into the process and they give you some kind of feedback, that's something you can use. It's up to you whether or not you use it, of course, but at least they were engaged enough to say something. So yeah, I think that, the constraints that we had against the team was very funny and very like, we don't have a back end. Like, there were some technical things that I was like, I'm okay. All right, let's pivot. Let's pivot. Let's pivot. And it was good to be able to work that muscle also, especially as a product manager, of like pivoting, understanding scope, understanding the resource constraints and the skills constraints that you might have. It gave me a lot of opportunities. I've used them in interviews. I've used I've used my experience in Cherry on Tech in my interviews, and people, they like the answers because it's a real world example and it shows your aptitude of how you kind of move through a conflict or move through new changes, and it's been really helpful.
I love that example of using this as for interviews, and I have heard from some people who's like, this is not a real project because it's not a company and organization. It's like, well, if that's what you say to people, well, that's what they believe. But I feel like having an experience like this and be able to tell in a great story, like how you use your skills and transferring those is going to work. I mean, it worked for me as it helped me a lot to land that first job because I have like hands-on experience that I can talk about. So it's all about how you telling the story at the end of the day. Melissa.
Yes, I love that you said that, because one of the challenge that I definitely wanted to talk about was exactly that great story. My group, we bit off a little more than we can chew, especially with the technical constraints that we had, and we had to slash some things, right? We couldn't include every single thing that we had decided. And while that was a challenge, that was an incredible experience because it allowed the group, but me specifically as the product manager, to flex that muscle and to have a solutions approach to the thing that we were trying to do, right? It's not about the feature that we're trying to turn out. It's about the thing that we wanted to solve. And so, yeah, while that was a challenge, that was like, and I've used it in an interview. I think I consider that something that I like have in my tool belt that really, really helped. And then I also, I think we've touched on it a little bit today, but I also want to acknowledge the knowledge gaps and self-doubt as a challenge within this, because like I said, some of us have experience, some of us don't. It can be really easy to be embarrassed about not knowing things or be kind of unsure about how to go forward, especially when you're working in a program that is week by week and you got to just move on to the next thing. But again, I think that really helped us in being comfortable with each other and just, for lack of a better word, forcing ourselves to just do the next thing if the previous thing wasn't perfect, and be comfortable in that. And I think that in itself is a skill as well.
I love that. I feel like being uncomfortable in an uncomfortable space is such a powerful thing. Like being comfortable in an uncomfortable space and you being uncomfortable. I don't know if this makes sense what I'm saying, but it's okay. And this is something that it will happen at work anyway, regardless if you have like tons of experience or not experience, is always going to be there. So to being aware and jumping into it, being scared is, I love it. Again, I love the struggles. So, okay, where were some key takeaways away or lessons that you learned during the program, Melissa?
Yeah, I'm glad that I went next because it's kind of an extension of what I just said, which is it's okay to do work that isn't perfect. It's okay to do bad work, for lack of a better word, I suppose. Like I'm someone specifically who's can be kind of prideful and can be kind of nervous to share work that isn't 100% or that I don't think is like, ready to go. But I think that you get the most out of an experience and you get the most out of the project that you're working on when you actually just do that. So not being afraid to jump with a parachute that might not be 100%, but will still get you to the ground safely. And then the other thing that I really, really loved about the cohort was the workshops that we did on Saturdays. So every kind of Saturday we talked about something different, and one that really helped me in a lot of ways, both professionally and emotionally, it was the values workshop. And when we talked about like, what do I value in work? What are some strengths that I bring to the table? I think that was such a great way to, um, you know, it was such an additional, like a cherry on top for cherry on tech of like working on skills, but then also taking that time to like talk about that space and talk about it with the community and feel like, again, like I said, it feels lonely sometimes when you're trying to transition and all of that stuff. So that really helped um, build my confidence a lot, I would say. I loved it.
And if people is asking or they don't know about the Saturday meetings, so we call this global meetings that happen on Saturdays, and we have like 1 hour with all the participants get together and we talk about a little bit about the week, but most important, we bring a guest speaker and they talk about different topics. And I would say we have super excited news for the new cohort 2 coming up. And again, everybody is invited to this, is the job readiness after cohort program that is going to be dedicated absolutely just for like, what are the things that you need? And I feel like because the talk that you were mentioning, that usually we have 2 talks at the end of the program, closer to the end of the program, that are all about getting ready for that next step. We are moving all of that into like a after program that is going to be more powerful for everybody. See, we have a lot of news that you let me share here. Archaa, what are the things, the main takeaways?
I think I already touched on, and so did other folks, kind of the community aspect of the whole program. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on some of the technical takeaways that I had. I think that, like I mentioned, this is my first time ever working with a designer and a product manager. And that, especially for folks out there who are programmers, coders, who are contemplating applying, I would highly recommend it for that piece specifically. It was just a total game changer, especially working with these really detailed, amazing wireframes. Like everything I had built before this, I was like designing as I coded, and it was, let me tell you, it didn't look that great. It didn't look anything like what a designer can create. So that was just an awesome experience and way more real world. Like, you are not going to be asked to pull out full designs as a developer. So that was a huge takeaway for me, just how much more seamless an experience is when you have that process built in for developing. And then the second part was we followed agile workflow in our in our group, and I did have some familiarity with that, but just again, having the product manager and the designer there to get that whole workflow experience really was a great takeaway as well. And that's like amazing interview material right there, because people really care about if you know how to work in a team and know the workflow of a team. And again, for developers specifically, if you know how to work in sprints, if you know how to use Jira, all of that is really helpful. It helps you be much more organized and to be able to talk about it with firsthand experience is great. So that was a great takeaway for me as well.
I love when people say like exactly what we are looking for into the program. Sometimes it is translated into what we want and people is getting. So thank you so much for that. We want for people to get as close as we can as how we'll be at work. And I will say that all of us have time limitations. Yes, this is not, no one is doing this as a full time. Everybody's doing these on the side. So there's limitations and constraints about time and how much people can put into these, but we're trying our best to make it as real as possible. So I love it, Archaa. Neha, what about you?
Do not underestimate the presentations that you build out from it. Like, those work samples are key to also kind of showing off your work. I think this is something that I'm bringing into a couple of other projects that I'm bringing into, is the need to have the work samples as a part of this to show off. it's invaluable to be able to kind of do that. So spending a lot of time on those presentation skills, again, as a product manager, it's very important to be able to do that. I would also say like the other key takeaways is for me specifically was like the mentorship. I was able to kind of gain a lot of people that I mean, the mentors were some of them were on my level, but I still learn from them. Like the people that are joining and doing the presentations, I was able to connect with those people and develop a relationship with those people and learn about their roles. Um, I think the other thing is it's like for me I was unsure if I wanted to continue still being a product manager for a while. So, but then kind of going through this process, I was like, actually, this is a better fit for me. Listening to other people that do different types of roles, maybe a UX researcher, maybe it was a product marketing, maybe accessibility focus, like it could be anything. And I think it's good to learn what you like and what you don't like as well when you hear all these other people talk about their work. That was really invaluable for me. And again, of course, the community aspect, I think it's being able to build out your community. You have the opportunity to build it out as much and as little as you want. There was a lot of flexibility there. And I really enjoyed I personally, as again, someone that had a little more experience, teaching the agile practices and like encouraging my team and also seeing the flaws that kind of can occur that in the practice. I was like, I didn't think about this part. I didn't think about this part. This needs to be explained. There are a lot of things that I think there is a lot of assumptions that a lot of tech people do when they're talking to newer people that I was able to work through. And because of that, I think I'm able to work with much different types of people. I can work with highly technical people and I can work with highly people that are new to the experience. They will become technical later on. And it's not necessarily about, oh, you can't do this. It's just like, oh, this is a different way to do it. Like, or maybe you should ask your mentor, like, how do you continue to like grow into that role? There's a lot of opportunities to fail. Like that's our team blew up our GitHub right before our presentation, and I was like, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. It's fine. But they were able to do it, and then they had the experience of what happens. What now they developed a CI/CD process for themselves. Great. I didn't have to teach that to them. That was awesome. So it was a really there's so many different takeaways that you can get out of the experience, and a lot of it is also how you approach it, I suppose, and that's how you do anything. But it's just how you approach this new weird experience that you're going to be doing.
I love that you're mentioning the presentations. I think for me, when we were thinking about the presentations, that we want everybody to be including this as like designers, PMs, and developers. It's because when in my previous jobs, we will have like a sprint review where all the teams will present what they're doing. And for me, I'm always down to have like branding presentation, to practice, to have a dry run, to be able to say like, this is powerful and it's great communication. So when I have teams that it will present like they will present half of the screen, or the presentation wouldn't be nice or branded, or that you wouldn't know that they didn't practice. For me, it's like, no, people need to be able to present themselves and be like the best version of themselves. That is not just for work, but is going to be influencing when they are at interviews and something like that. And I think having that case study preparing during the whole cohort, so when you're at the end, you have something like copy and paste. Love it. This is something that I do at work. Every time that I finish a project, I do a case study that is for work, but I use it for myself, for my case study. So how you can utilize these tools for yourself to add. And this is something that we do as a designers. We have always a case study, but how can we help the developers and PMs to be able to have something that they can use on their side too? So I love that. Let's see. Okay, Neha, tell me like a memorable moment or a shipment. A shipment, how you say this word? Oh my goodness, that you experienced in the cohort. See, I put all these words that I cannot even say.
What achieve? What? Say it. What's the question? I'm so
Sorry,
sorry.
that's okay. I got it. It's not on my word. Can you tell me a memorable moment that you have during the cohort?
A memorable moment that we had in the cohort. Um, I think the one of I think this moment with our team when we realized, so one of the tasks I gave to one of the more skilled engineers was like, can we use AI? Like, I know we don't have a back end, but can we use AI potentially to get to kind of elevate our product in a specific way? And she had life, unfortunately, so that happened. Then she finally got back to me and was like, it costs money. And I was like, well, that's a big bummer. We will not be able to use that. But then just watching our team, I didn't have anything prepared. I had a whole plan of like all the product things that I wanted to do, and I had a whole plan for it, and we had to completely shift. This new constraint like really shifted everything that we had to do, and it was really cool to watch these people that literally did not know anything about agile practices or methodologies, had never worked on a team before, how that team, our team together, we were able to completely revamp our idea with new ideas and a new concept and a new flow. It was very last minute, but it still felt very clean. No one was like upset with one another. We were able to kind of develop a new plan, a new pathway, and work together on it. And it was really cool to be like, wow, look at us. That was really cool. That was like, that's not something that normally happens. Normally, like when a new constraint happens, people tend to get very upset. They're like, oh, I had this idea, I had this plan. And I think it's because of the people that join Cherry on Tech, right? I don't know if I would feel this at every boot camp. I know I haven't felt it in a work environment before. So I think it's also about the people that come to Cherry on Tech and also how the environment that you guys have built around it, where it's like we're doing all the fun parts of product, or we're doing all the fun parts of tech without the nagging feeling of the CEO is about to bother you. We have a deadline. We have this, like, so it's, you get to kind of enjoy the experience a little bit more without the like intensity of being in a tech environment. You get to learn all the difficult parts of like working on a team. There's tech constraints. I'm new to this part. I don't know how to do this. You get all that experience, but you get to do it without the ceiling crushing down on you of like, there's stakeholders, they're the CEO, you don't have that. So you get to experience the more hopefully enjoyable parts of the tech process.
Love it. See, I have an idea and then I forgot it. Oh, about the constraints. Even though we would like everybody to be able to do anything that they imagine, that's never like a reality. Like at any space, they're going to be always constrained. So even though we explained at the beginning, there's like, hey, no backend, it takes a lot of effort. It's hard to imagine because I feel like any tool that we use today, it has that capability. Yes. So come out of that space and say, what do you mean that we cannot do this? It's like, yeah, you have to give me a solution without that. And I love that. I love that constraint because it put everybody in like, what are we going to resolve this? And again, when you show all the projects, yeah, you will have liked to do more, but you work what you have in your head and make it possible. So I love that. Archaa, a moment that your memorable moment.
Yeah, I had a lot of memorable moments with my fellow developers on my squad. One is that we just really were rocking our Git workflow. So we had just like this really great system down where everyone was doing these really great detailed pull requests. We had a pull request template that we had put in. And it just made it feel really organized, really clear that, okay, this is what we've done, this is what we need to do. And we actually took really detailed time to give each other thorough code reviews. And that was really, it just felt like everyone was really invested in each other's code and in kind of building the best product. So I really enjoyed that process with my developers, and I feel like we did a great job just kind of being really intentional in how we were building out our product.
And these are processes that you can take to work. I feel like when you go and talk to people at work, they're going to say, we have issues with this. So it's like how you bring in your ideas that you have done in the past to improve just the relationship and the workflow between people. I always recommend anyone to have like a work diary. Write down all these things. You will always think, oh yeah, I will remember everything that I did and how. No, that's a lie. You won't remember. I don't remember even like what I did yesterday. So having a work diary with all these things that you went through and the struggle and how you resolve it is going to help you so much to put it out of like any time that you have an interview. Melissa, your memorable moment.
Yeah, I think my memorable moment, look at me. There was tons, but I think the one that really resonated with me was when just in the first couple of weeks of the program and we were just ideating. And I really, this is exactly what I love about things like this is just that we all collaborated. We all really were having really open and honest conversations about our own experiences with imposter syndrome, about all of the things that we learned. And then, like I said before, we did all of that. And then we were kind of like, it's not perfect, or we don't have everything totally ready, or we don't have all of the, ABCs of every single thing. And so I loved that moment, that collaboration with the team. But then I also really loved the moment where we all took a step back and we were like, all right, we got to just do it. Like we got to just go forward with these maybe imperfect ideas. Maybe we don't have all of the research ready. Maybe we don't have, everything dotted and T'd. But I think that was really huge shift in not only our group's way of thinking, but my own way of thinking that kind of kept on with the rest of the program and what I still carry with me today.
And I feel like this comes with the idea of what do we want with any product and how we approach is like the best user experience that we can give to anyone. If we keep perfecting and never putting out and never be in front of the user, how do we know that they really like it and that we can improve it? So I feel like this sense of perfection perfection is imperfection. I will say that it's just going out with what you have in your hand and test it. And mostly thinking, I think something that Melissa, you mentioned at the beginning is we are all doing our best at this moment. So I think to come back to that sense of thought of like, yes, could I do better? Yes, but is this my best at this moment with the things that I have in hand? And being conscious about that is super powerful. Okay, to finish, our last question, I'm deleting all of the ones there, and I'm going to ask you one that is not in our notes. If you will give a tip or suggestion for anyone that would like to apply to Cherry on Tech, what would be like one tip or one suggestion? Archaa, I feel like you're ready. They're thinking.
Is it like a suggestion for the application process or for when they're participating?
I mean, I will say for the application process is first comes, first serves. So we are open our registration this Saturday, February 17 at 9 in the morning. So just apply. But any tips to be on during the 13 weeks program?
I would say my tip is to like get to know your team, lean into the connections with them, and just be excited to work with them. Don't stress about like how many of the to-dos you've checked off and like how much don't stress about all the logistics. Lean into the relationships.
I love that because I feel like this is one of the learnings that I have working with Archaa on their tech squad. Is like, we don't need to do everything. Let's just do what we have and let's see what happens. And I think that was super surprising when you presented the project at the end. It's like, did you ended up adding all of this? Like, when did you have time for that? So it's like, okay, like an extra surprise. So I love that. Melissa, what about you? What tip?
So I don't know if this counts as a tip, but my tip is if your doubting whether you want to, or doubting whether you're XYZ enough to do something like this, you are, and just do it. And don't be afraid. And you can't do it. That's my tip.
Yes, and I love it. I love everything though. But I love that if you have the thought of doing something, that means that you already have the skills, that there is something in you that is ready for this. So it's just your body and your whole self saying, yes, go for it. It's just like another thing that is telling you, yes, do it. So I love it. Neha, your tip.
I would say, I thought I was going to be ready. I'm so sorry. I think once you're in it, it's also the non-perfection thing, and to also ask for help. I think what typically happens is like a lot of new people, myself included, I do it too. I try to figure out everything on my own before ever asking for help. And it's actually okay to ask for help from your team. Ask for help from your team. If you don't know something, someone else might. And use the mentors. Use the tools that the program kind of provides you to get everything else, get what you can out of it. Like, that's about leveraging all the relationships. So you have to leverage your relationships so that you feel okay about asking for help. Because when you're in a work environment, you're not going to know everything. You're not going to know everything, and you're going to have to be like, I don't know how this works. I don't know how this works. Like, can you help me out? And that's okay. And and that you don't have to have the perfect question formatted to ask your mentor or whatever. You can kind of come with them with as long as you're there to be coached, right? As long as you're coachable, you'll learn. Like, just try to be coachable. I think it's a good, I'll stop there.
Love it. And Maricel was asking about the recording. This is live and it's going to be in our YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube channel and say Cherry and Tech, we're there. We're going to be always there. So you're ready for any time that you want to do it. Thank you, the three of you, for this. Love it so much. And for those who are watching and wanted to know more information, this Saturday at 9 a.m. PST, Ali and me, Ali's the other co-founder, we're going to have another info session. We're going to share more about the processes, what do we do, how we do it. So come and see us on Saturday. All the information is in YouTube channel, on our LinkedIn. And thank you so much. This was great. You were so good.
Great chatting with you.
You were great. You were great.
Yeah. I'm a
Bye,
great host.
everyone.
I tried. I practiced a lot for this. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Amazing.